And this is how we blossom. This is how we pray. This is how we are as beautiful. I come to you today as I am. Mexican, Latina, migrante, fronteriza, journalist, storyteller, woman. From day one, I have fought to reclaim the narrative of my border with joy and courage and hope, even and especially now, when everything that I am is being challenged. My identity today, now I get it, is my superpower. Yes, sometimes it makes me a target, but more than anything, our story, the story of the border, of migrants, of Spanish speakers, matters. And I want to be the one to tell it. I was born in Magdalena de Quino, Sonora. That's a very, very small town, but it's a place full of magic and mystery and stories. And stories were whispered by my family in living rooms, sung by my community, etched forever in the desert dust. I have always been a dreamer and a questioner. I'm crossing lines every day, literally and figurative. And I'm always searching for truth, and I'm always searching for connection. And I became a journalist because I believe in the transformative power of listening. To me, journalism is about sitting down, it's truly listening, it's building trust to honest, two-way conversation. And it's not about chasing just headlines or collecting awards. I've done that. It's not fulfilling. And it's about pursuing stories for years, not just days, and witnessing the struggles and the wins of families they want to build a better life in this side of the border. And it's about reclaiming the border, not just like the wall, but as a place of resilience, hope, and community. By 2025, that mission is under attack. Let's go back in time, 2010. When the pandemic struck, it exposed so many fault lines in our communities. I witnessed confusion, fear, isolation, not just on one side of the border, but in both sides of the border. Large news organizations overlook our needs. They thought that Spanish speaking was a nice to have, but not something that it was really needed. And that made the information gap grow dangerously. It was this moment when Connect Arizona was born. Connect Arizona is not a project. It's a labor of love and resistance and resilience. We started with hundreds of WhatsApp coffee shops that we have because we actually chat with the community every single day. We have radio broadcasts, we do face-to-face conversations, we have a very successful podcast, we have a newsletter, we have a website, we're everywhere. And we have created spaces where people can actually connect across divides, to be heard, to be supported. And it's about restoring dialogue within journalism, where in places where community actually feels seen and valued. But let me be honest, the journey has not been easy or straightforward. In 2023, entering our third year of Connect Arizona, I found myself with a negative balance in my bank account of $3,000 because I did believe in this experiment and I thought that it was worth it to fight for, but the money was not coming in, it was not sustainable. And I know the uncertainty was real, but that same year, after believing deeply in myself, in the work that we do in the border, in our mission, we secured over $1 million in funding to sustain Connect Arizona for the next 3 years. And that number keeps growing. So we went from a coffee bean to a coffee mug, from a coffee mug to being the baristas of news of Arizona. If you are like in the corporate world, you will get this curve and then from twos and all the twos that I have learned in this journey. So what it began with just me and one brave, bold soul that I had as a friend. He's part of the team now. It grew into a team of 8, and last year alone, more than 40 paid contributors contributed to our crucial work. This is community journalism built with grit, heart, and sustainability. And it's a proof that another way, it is possible. The work is not easy. Moderating discussions where tensions run high requires balancing the respect for freedom of expression and with managing fear and restriction. And it can be exhausting. It tests you, but it's really worth it. At Connect Arizona, we exercise the muscles of difficult conversations. And sometimes those muscles ache. This is like a typical WhatsApp cafecito looks like. And I know that we could have taken the easiest path, stopping, tuning out, letting those differences fester. But instead, step by step, we chose to walk side by side, listen, and to persevere. This work of building bridges through journalism is a response to exclusion, misinformation, and burnout that plague our newsrooms and communities. It is a hopeful declaration. Our communities matter. Our voices, especially the ones that we speak a different language like Spanish, matter, and they must be heard and amplified. Connect Arizona shows that journalism can be community-driven, bilingual, vulnerable at times, human always, and just sustainable. We are the fireflies in an arid desert landscape. Small but shiny lights, an oasis even when the odds said otherwise. This is journalism that builds capacity to meet the moment because it remembers why we began telling stories, to serve humans, to build trust, to stand shoulder to shoulder with those stories who are our own too. And I see in most of your eyes that you have the same hunger. The hunger to belong, to build, to reject the false comfort and indifference. Local journalists will not survive just on technology or business models alone. It thrives when reporters, editors, funders, and communities understand what it truly means to listen, to be present, and to build trust. One story, one conversation at a time. We all carry wounds, I know that. Those are scars from exclusion, from exhaustion, or the pressure that we had to perform. But those scars are not weaknesses. They are the proof that even when the path is hard, we do not give up. Like desert flowers pushing through the cracked earth, we bloom where the world says that we cannot. Deep inside, I remain that little girl from Magdalena de Quino. I'm an oily, positive person who believes in bridges, not walls, with hundreds of voices from my community alongside me, and I know that the work is not done. Our stories are not yet finished, and together, let's build that blank page with stories of courage, connections, and hope. And I want to share mine with you, and I know it's very personal. But I grew up crossing borders back and forth with the privilege of passage. The US was for me just a temporary destination for coming back home until 2006. I migrated, led by love and unaware of the many privileges that I carried. I swapped a tourist visa for a spousal visa, then a work visa, then another work visa, then another work visa, and then another work visa. And I navigated the labyrinth of the immigration system and discovered that sometimes the fight for legality feels like modern slavery. I worked twice as hard to deserve the visa sponsorship, and I cried countless nights when my present and my future depended on my immigration status, when my visa was about to expire, when I had to renew my work permit, when I had to justify living in a land that felt alien and borrowed. And I felt like an imposter. Now, I know that I belong. For years, I worked non-stop, 14 hours at least 7 days a week to prove to my employers that I deserved to be here, that sponsoring my visa was worth it, that I wanted to put down roots in this side of the world, and to prove to the United States that I earned my place. I devoted myself to proving that it was enough, to others and to myself. And in an obsolete and tangled immigration system where suffering tends to be rewarded, I earned my Medal of Freedom. After 18 years, in November of 2024, I became a US citizen. And yet, I'm still a migrant. I was told many times that my grain of sand will be lost in the desert, that it was so idealistic dreaming of changing the world, but in such a time, that my ideas were like throwing rocks into a river, that I wasn't a talent, that my accent was too thick, that I might be too short. And I was warned that one person could have turned the ship, that a community project was just a hobby, and that small group was in journalism. I smiled, and I kept going. Today, Connect Arizona is no longer an experiment. Today is no longer mine, it's ours. And where are the Latino journalists in the room? I see you, you're not invisible. I hear you, you're here. And I hope everybody can see her, and everybody else in the room. Where are the community journalists in the room? I hope to see more hands. It's not that I'm here. I honor you. We are not invisible either. And for all of you, when someone tells you that a person cannot change the world, take them by the hand and show them the power of human connections. One by one, we weave stories, friendships, support networks, communities, families, neighborhoods, informed conversations. We build narrative with our hands, with our language, with our accents, with our faces. Journalism is not an extraction, but an inspiration. And stories are born not from press releases, but from afternoons full of conversations, of cafecitos, of diálogo. We can be mythbusters, we can be lifesavers, we can grow stronger when we go deeper together. And today, I'm building a newsroom that I would have loved when I started. Innovative, inspiring, non-traditional, community-based, and community-inspired. And I bring conversations back to journalism through hundreds of WhatsApp cafecitos, those radio conversations and in-person meetings. And I do feel that I'm paving the way for more to come, a wider path where we walk side by side and not behind. And yes, mi gente, even in this 2025 and the years to come, we can bring back joy to journalism. Muchas gracias.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Marissa. That was beautiful. We're now going to transition to the Hall of Fame. Bobby, if you could pull that up. And so I would like to bring up Rick Worm to introduce our first inductee, Jeanette Chavez.
So my name's Rick Charbonneau, but I never hear that. People call me Worm, and I worked at the Denver Post for 46 years, 330 days. I got laid off right at the start of COVID. It took him 10 seconds to read a prepared script for me. It was a reduction in force on a Friday, which was my day off. And but I'm here to, and there's a lot of new faces in this room since the last time I've been to one of these. And I want to tell you guys that are in the trenches every day, I'm behind you all the way. I'm rooting for you. Subscribe to a lot of papers, and good luck. But I want to let you know, too, that there is life after newspapers, and it's wonderful. In 2012, this organization, I was the newspaper person of the year, and a shocking development to me. At that point in time, I was traveling around Colorado with my finger on the pulse of all the Colorado newspapers. And everybody kept it a secret, including Terry House, who can't keep any secrets. But the best part about the day was a legend named Jeanette Chavez introduced me to the audience. And so Linda Shapley called me a month or so ago, asked if I would come and introduce Jeanette today, and I told her I would be glad to. Jeanette Chavez attended John F. Kennedy Junior High School, or high school in Denver, and I just found that out yesterday. And we talked about that because I went to Abraham Lincoln High School, which is the rival just up the hill. Go Lancers. She attended the University of the Pacific in 1969 and 1970. Then she went to the University of Colorado in Boulder, where she's a JOUR 73. And after college at Boulder, she was a news editor for the business news section at Chicago Sun-Times from 83 to 84. She was a city editor at Fort Collins, Colorado from 1974 to 1980. And Jeanette worked at the Denver Post from 1977 through 2011. And she was the managing editor from 1984 through 2011. In 2001, the Denver Post and the Rocky Mountain News merged, and we started the Denver Newspaper Agency. It was under a joint operating agreement. So the Rocky Mountain News and the Denver Post published Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays the Rocky Mountain News had a publication and the Denver Post had a Sunday publication. On February 27, 2009, the Rocky Mountain News published its last edition. On February 28, 2009, Jeanette had put out her first Saturday paper in 9 years. During the tenure at the Denver Post, the staff won a Pulitzer Prize for its coverage of the Columbine High School. Jeanette served as a Pulitzer Junior, juror, and a panelist and speaker on journalism-related topics abroad as well as in the United States. Prior to the Denver Post, Jeanette worked as a reporter and editor for several newspapers, including the Chicago Sun-Times, the Arlington Heights and Daily Herald, and the Colorado Springs Sun. Jeanette was a board member for the Colorado Press Association starting in 2003. She was the president in 2010 and the chairman in 2011-2012. Jeanette graduated from the University of Colorado with a degree in journalism and was involved in the revitalization of the program and integration into CMCD, which was then Colorado Media for Communication Design, and recently they've added information on that, and that organization still continues. Jeanette has served on the boards of the Knight Center for Specialized Journalism, the Best of the West Contest, and the CU Journalism Advisory Committee. So that gives you some of her professional background. And I worked in circulation under the Circulation Act for the Denver Post, and Jeanette was in editorial. So we really worked for two different companies, but we got to know each other. During the early days of the JOA, it was a male-dominated upper level for the Denver Post. We'd be in the boardroom, a lot of big time egos, screamers and hollers. People would be in that room yelling at each other. When JC talked, people listened. And she was the voice of reason in all those years. And then I got to know Jeanette a lot better when we were doing a lot of volunteer work together at the company. We had an organization called ACTS for assisting the community through service. And Jeanette and her husband Leo would come out and do things like Basket of Joy, where we prepared 5,000 fruit baskets around Christmas and delivered. That was a program started by the immortal Woody Page, Volunteers of America, and Albertsons. She was also involved in painting, landscaping, and a project called Pack to School, which was a legacy project that the Rocky Mountain News has been doing for years, where we packed school, backpacks for kids at schools for less fortunate children. Then in 2014, Jeanette came out and joined us on an event called Ride the Rockies. It was a very successful cycling event that Denver posted for many years. And she started in 2014, and then she came back out in 2016, 2017, and 2018. And she ran the charity part of a ride and had a silent auction that they'd set up every day. Her husband Leo joined us in 2016, 2017, and 2018. I did Ride the Rockies for 33 years, and I took thousands and thousands of pictures out there. When Leo came along, he's a photographer. I'm a picture taker, and all of our great pictures from Ride the Rockies are courtesy of Leo Chapman. And it was wonderful having you guys out on Ride the Rockies. So it's my pleasure to introduce Jed Chapman.
First, I have to tell a little bit about Worm. He should have been in the newsroom. This guy knew everybody in Colorado in the newspaper business and outside of the newspaper business, it seemed like. There were times when we would need something, we'd say, Worm will know. It was always the case. And he, as part of his job, was going all around the state. So he would take photos of unusual signs or anything he saw, and it would end up being published in our travel section with a guess where this is. And it went on for years, and people loved it. But that's just an example of the sort of thing he was doing. It was wonderful, and he's still doing that sort of thing in retirement. We're Facebook friends, and I can't believe all the places he goes. It's always something new, some new restaurant, checking out the people he's known over the years. It's wonderful. So, thank you, Warren. Now I have to put my glasses on so I can read the rest of this. First of all, when I learned about this honor, my first response was, what the hell? I mean, why? Because there are so many other people who deserve it. Fortunately, 2 of them are also being inducted today. Congratulations to both of you. Once I calmed down, I started thinking what pearls of wisdom I might share, or war stories I might tell. And forget it. I'm not going to mess with that. I got into journalism because I can't carry a tune. It's the truth. That's right, I wanted to join my friends in choir, but I was rejected. The only alternative seemed to be an intro to journalism class. Over time, I came to see it as more than just a class or two, but when I couldn't get a job after college, I was hired as a King Soopers checker. There I go. Fortunately, King Soopers employees went on strike just before I was to start. Then I got a call to become the food editor at the Colorado Springs Sun. And here I am today. You can see how things work out. Thank goodness, because journalism provided me with more fun than one should expect from a career. It fit my personality. It combined curiosity, pickiness, writing, and the idealism, mixed with a healthy dose of competition. Thank you, Rocky Mountain News. It really was. Sorry to see you go. It also introduced me to a host of characters inside and outside of the newsroom, delightful people who occupy my life and my memories and taught me so much. Thank you to CPA, whoever nominated me, and to my family, especially my husband and best friend, Leo Chavez, who has supported me through crazy hours, excitement over news stories, and frustration with sources, colleagues, and bosses. Maybe some of you know about that. I've seen very talented journalists leave business because of unsupported partners. I got really lucky. And thank you to our 2 daughters, Laura and Stephanie, who knew they were loved, but that their mom might not be home to fix dinners, so they better learn to fix something for themselves. They knew that I thought what we do in journalism matters, that good journalism matters, that correcting errors matters, that holding the truth to power matters, and that our First Amendment is sacrosanct. Well, I'm angry right now about what is happening in and to our industry. No details, you all know. I want to thank all of you for continuing the fight to tell America's stories and shine a light on what many would like to keep hidden. Thank you.
Congratulations, Jeanette. And for our next Hall of Fame inductee, I'm going to bring up Linda Shapley to introduce Jerry Healy.
I have the honor of having succeeded two of our Hall of Fames, because after Jeanette left the Denver Post, I moved into her position, and then when Jerry sold Colorado Community Media to the National Trust for Local News, I succeeded him as publisher. So I'm doubly proud and doubly honored to be able to speak about Jerry Healy today. So Jerry began his newspaper career in '82 as management development program at the Miami Herald in Florida. And from '86 to '89, he was sales and systems support manager for the classified ad department at the Providence Journal Bulletin in Rhode Island. So he and his journalist wife, Ann, bought the Littleton Times, a small weekly, and they formed Macari Healy Publishing Company in '81, and they bought the Littleton Independent, the Inglewood Herald, and the Highlands Ranch Herald. In that time, by the time he decided to sell the papers to a group in Texas, he was overseeing 15 Colorado publications and 120 employees, and managed an $8.5 million budget, and then sent that to the Houston-based CEO. He left newspapers in '98, and then in 2011 returned to his passion when he was asked to help turn around some papers in the West and the North in Jefferson and Adams counties. And those eventually became part of what became Colorado Community Media. And so under his leadership, those papers and the papers around it returned to profitability, and when they sold to the National Trust, CCM was comprised of 26 newspapers. Many of them historic national publications, which you've all heard of, the Golden Transcript, the Littleton Independent, names that have meant so much to so many communities around the Denver metro area. In addition, Jerry was past president, vice president, and member of the board of directors for the Colorado Press Association. He was on the business advisory board for Arapahoe Community College, and there's just a list of other things that he had done in order to make sure that he was supporting the community that he was in. As part of his nomination, sometimes you get one letter from somebody who says, hey, you really should consider this person. We got 4, and they came from advertising, editorial, business operations, circulation. Because essentially, every single one of those departments, Jerry had a measurable effect on. And so I grabbed some pieces from each of those letters because I think they're just really important to hear for all of you. Audrey Brooks, who was business manager for Colorado Community Media, said every decision that Jerry made was predicated on how the result would impact the communities that we served. Erin Adbrook, who was the head of advertising, said, Jerry always told me, never say never, which proved true from his ownership of titles, and that his lifelong career and passion for the publishing industry have significantly impacted all the communities that he served and ensured that people received the news that mattered. Lindsay Nicoletti, who was head of operations and circulation, said, as publisher, CEO, and owner, Jerry was always looking ahead to find solutions to overcome the ongoing challenges in the ever-changing landscape in this industry. and he was instrumental in keeping local media alive and leading his team to success. And finally, Chris Rotar, who was head of editorial for Jerry for a number of years, said that perhaps more than any other reason, Jerry should be honored as a Hall of Famer because he had a passion for keeping newspapers alive. He championed their roles as watchdogs and providers of vital information. He deeply understood their importance to small businesses and to the community. And before selling his papers and retiring, Jerry built that roster to 24. And while you might ask, does somebody need that many newspapers? The truth is, Jerry didn't need them, the communities did. So it's with my honor, it's to introduce Jerry Healy. Communities did. So it's with my honor, it's to introduce Jerry Healy.
That was wonderful. Thank you very much. Very touched. I've got 5 minutes. Take out my stopwatch. There we go. All right. I guess I can go on forever. Thank you, Linda. That was a wonderful introduction, and thank you for incorporating some of the letters, which I only read this morning. I didn't want to read them right till today, and there were some really nice things said about me. Thank you. Chris is here, who wrote one of the letters. Thank you to the Colorado Press Association for this award. I was on the selection committee for a number of years, and I actually nominated some of the winners and I personally know, or have known some of the winners throughout the years, and it's just wonderful for me to be able to join that group of people. It means a lot to me. Thank you, Erin, Chris, Lindsay, and Audrey for nominating me, and the 4 of you were in the trenches with me, and I couldn't have done anything without you. Now I'd like to introduce the people at my table. I'll start with my son, Sean. He's here. My granddaughter, Graceland. My daughter, Megan. Daughter, Brooke. Gates Scott, who you might have heard kind of had 2 iterations in the business from 91 to 97 here in Colorado. Gates was part of the first iteration of our newspaper, McCary Healy Publishing, which, not coincidentally, it was called MHPC, which is where my wife and I met at the Miami Herald Publishing Company, which is also MHPC. And my wife Ann, I'll come back to her in a second. Barb Stolte. Barb Stolte was around for the first time, but definitely was holding together the North Group pretty much by herself when I walked in the door that day to help me get it turned around. And without Barb, that place would have failed a number of times, and she kept it going for sure. Chris Rotar, who wrote that wonderful letter that Linda closed with, was the editor of the South Group. Michael Kelly was the editor of the North and the West Group, and at one time publisher of the West Group. So thanks for being here today to support me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to just try to tell you a little bit of our story in just a couple of minutes. But Ann and I both worked for the Miami Herald, and we back then I was in the advertising side, and she was a journalist. And anyone who knows what was going on in the 80s in the newspaper business, the two didn't really mix. In fact, we didn't really like each other a whole lot. And we always wondered why they didn't appreciate us more, because we helped them get the money so they could write. And there was this thing that went on, but I worked in the classified department, and the classified department didn't have a softball team, so I joined the softball team, and that's where Ann was, playing softball. So that's how the two kind of went over, and I met her on the softball field. And without Ann, there's no way I'm here today. There's just no way. Bob Sweeney's here, once called Ann my secret weapon. I've had some vendors tell me that I married up. There's no question about that. So without Ann, there's no question My goal telling you this story today is to try to encourage more people to get into the business, try to encourage more people to take on leadership roles, try to encourage more journalists in particular to be bold, to lead. Don't be afraid to lead. We need more young journalists. And this is not a put down for anyone who worked for me throughout the years. But so often we would get journalists that came out of school, and they'd have multimedia backgrounds, and they would tell us about all the cool things they were doing in college. Then they'd show up at our newsroom and want to write, and it was typically me or somebody else pushing them to do more multimedia, encourage us to get into more platforms. But they wanted to write, and it was like, please, when you come out of school, let's get going, let's rock, come up with your ideas, take a leadership role. Wow, I'm almost done here, time-wise. Anyway, Ann and I decided to become entrepreneurs in 1889. And we came over, took the train from Chicago and bought our first local paper. We didn't have any money. That was owner financed, that newspaper. That's one of my other messages to the owners of small newspapers in Colorado. Please consider owner financing. It's very difficult to finance a newspaper in today's environment. If you want to sell to someone, but please consider owner financing to help the next generations of leadership roles. So we had the 2 iterations. I got to know some people that are, one of which is on the Hall of Fame already. And when we bought when we bought the next 3 newspapers, Megan this year was a baby, just a couple of months old. Ann and I did 2 consecutive all-nighters to put out our first week's editions. I slept on the composing room floor for about an hour. Ann did not 1 minute, and she was nursing and taking care of Megan at the same time. When we sold the first group of papers, we grew a lot, and Gates, who's here, had a lot to say about that. We grew a lot in the 90s, caught some attention, we sold. The funny thing is, House Waring, who's also in the Hall of Fame here, was an editor, a well-known national editor for the Wilton Independent. And when we went to his funeral, and we were talking to potential buyers, this comes down to the never say never. I was never going to sell the Wilton Independent. And we had an offer in our back pocket. And Garrett Ray, who was one of House's mentorees, was talking about how happy House was that Ann and I owned the newspapers and how great a job we were doing. In the meantime, we were probably going to sell within a month, and that was really hard. And we did sell. I was out of the business for 13 years, got back in, had some really good people, all of which wrote nomination letters that helped us get through that. It was a mess. We survived, we were profitable, and we sold to the National Trust, and we kept 26 publications, of which half of those probably would have closed during that time frame if it wasn't for the work of other people that were here. COVID was tough on the CPA, tough on us, tough on a lot of you in the audience. We got through it. I'm proud to say that I've never run an operation or been part of a nonprofit that was not profitable. I can go down with my career saying that happened. And the Colorado Press Association was profitable when I left it. I don't know where they are today, but we were very successful in everything we did, and it's all about teamwork. Again, thank you for the entry into the Hall of Fame. It means a whole lot to me. You have no idea. And take chances. Never say never. Have fun when you can. Celebrate successes. And do something great with your careers. Thank you.
Congrats again, Jerry. Well deserved. And last but certainly not least, I would like to invite Jeff Roberts up to introduce Steve Zansberg into our Hall of Fame.
everybody. I'm Jeff Roberts. I'm the Executive Director of the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition. You probably know Steve Zansberg as Colorado's preeminent media and First Amendment attorney. You definitely know that if you're a journalist who's needed his legal help over the past 25 years or so. What you may not know about are all the things Steve has done behind the scenes on a volunteer basis to make sure journalists in Colorado can do their jobs. I've seen it firsthand for many years, going back to the late 1990s when I was at the Denver Post and got involved with a very under-the-radar organization that was then called the Colorado Freedom of Information Council. Steve was on the board of that all-volunteer group, and he became the president, taking over from the legendary Tom Kelly, soon after I was hired to be executive director in 2013. To say that Steve taught me just about everything I know about freedom of information in Colorado is not an understatement. I've been able to offer guidance to journalists and others who sought CFOIC's help thousands of times over the past 12 years because of what I've learned from Steve Zansberg and Tom Kelly before him. I was able to write the guide on CFOIC's website because of what I learned from Steve Zansberg. When Steve answers my questions, usually on your behalf, and the questions that others pose to him, he's giving of his time and expertise. He's often giving of his time and expertise when he writes a demand letter to some government entity that's broken the Sunshine Law. And he gives up his time and expertise in other ways that you may not realize. Steve drafted the anti-SLAPP law that protects news organizations from frivolous defamation suits. And since that law went into effect in 2019, I don't think he's lost a single anti-SLAPP motion to dismiss. The latest one involved a libel lawsuit against Colorado Community Media for a story about school kids allegedly dressing up as furries. You might remember that a candidate for governor tried to make a big deal out of that in the last election. Because of Steve's advocacy, judges in criminal cases now must explain themselves when they seal a case file. The column he wrote in the Fort Collins Coloradan caught the attention of a state senator, and that led to a KORA provision entitling you to public records kept as databases and spreadsheets. Steve helped us water down a disastrous executive sessions bill in 2023. A few years ago, Steve left a big national law firm and opened his own firm, later welcoming Mike Balkin as his partner. One of the reasons he did that was to lower his hourly rate for news industry clients who aren't exactly swimming in revenue. Another reason was the freedom to take on any case he was asked to pursue. In just the past couple of years, he's won judgments against the Lakewood Police, the Douglas County School Board, the Denver School Board, the City of Denver, Denver Water, Colorado Springs Utilities, and the State Department of Human Services. And I'm probably missing some important ones. And now he's taking on the Trump administration for targeting public radio journalism. I could go on and on about Steve's accomplishments and his dedication to journalism. That's how he started out, you know. He's not as a lawyer, but as a documentary producer. He's always been focused on journalism, and he deserves our gratitude. 2 years ago, I was very honored to have Steve Zansberg induct me into the Colorado Press Association Hall of Fame, and today I am just as honored to be the person who gets to induct Steve.
Thanks very much, Jeff. And I also want to thank whoever nominated me and the folks in this room who voted to have me be a member of this class of inductees, along with both my friends, Jerry, of true luminaries in this industry. And it contains some of the greatest journalists in this state history, including Jeff and two co-inductees. As Jeff mentioned, I am a former journalist, but I've had the distinct honor and pleasure to serve the legal needs of many of you in this room, member papers, as well as this association for 30 years now. And the truth is that this work for me is as much a passion as it is a trade. I believe firmly in the vital role that a vibrant, vigorous, and free press plays as a necessary condition for our democracy. And as you all know, I don't have to tell you, we're living through some tough times right now, this industry is. Not only because of existential economic pressures and challenges, and younger generations turning to other forms of media as the source of their news, even though most of that news originates in newspapers. But also we have presently a government in place, and in particular, the president, who takes every opportunity available to delegitimize or attempt to delegitimize professional journalists, those who are committed ethically to report the truth, and even when it's not to the president's liking. That doesn't make it fake news. It is the truth. And he can apparently fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but he can't fire all of you. And so I urge you today in these troubled times to redouble your efforts in that regard. Speak truth to power and hold our public servants at every level of government accountable to we the people. Thomas Jefferson said, "Were it left to me to decide whether we should have a government without newspapers or newspapers without a government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter." And I couldn't agree more. So I want to thank you all again, thank the Press Association and its members for this, but even more so for what you do every day. I want to urge you to keep fighting the good fight, because the rest of us are dependent upon it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of the presenters, and congratulations again to all of the inductees. We are now going to start the famous slideshow for the BNC Awards, and you may hear some interesting music in the beginning and at the end. Enjoy.
Welcome to our celebration. Colorado used to love and shout. From the mountains to the plains, let's go. We're rolling through the Rockies, shining every light. Our voices citizen is the town. Inspire our valley voice with the valley's views. Our press chasing every breaking news. As the daily news on the slope so high. As the journalism telling the truth of the sky. So then over the capital, we can go. Surveyor keeps the story neat. Business bringing business to the fore. All reporting live community at its core. Market this community, cafe where the locals meet. Kansas City, Daily Red, Courthouse Street, Chevy County Town, Rivers Road, Charlie Colorado, how young minds grow. Clear Creek Current, tracing history's page. College Avenue magazine, rocking every stage. We're united by community, sharing every voice, chasing down the All my times I'll keep thinking face your friends me. Love and breathe, put it on the fire watch. Most positively sharing every voice, chasing down the truth. That's a rebel's choice. Mountain towns, city streets we stand, celebrating every love they Southern valleys and big metro lanes, we lift each other, we shine so bright.
Thank you.
Thank you.